You're watching FISM News.
After more than 3 months of arduous efforts, Wuhan, the Chinese city with the first noted coronavirus outbreak, claims to have cleared all COVID-19 cases in hospitals on Sunday. Zhao Yahui, a senior inspector at the Medical Administration Bureau of National Health Commission, said the number of hospitalized COVID-19 patients in Wuhan has dropped to 0, marking a major victory in our medical treatment at this stage. This filled me with a sense of accomplishment and pride. I'm proud of our medical workers across the country. As of the end of Saturday, Wuhan had reported a total of 50,333 confirmed cases and 3,869 deaths, with the reported recovery rate topping 92%. Life appears to be returning to normal in Hubei province. The work resumption rate of major industrial firms has reached 98.2%, and most of their workers have returned.
Monday, April 20th, after 2 weeks without reporting official activities, the North Korean media published a story about the country's leader, Kim Jong-un. The story tried to banish recent rumors about his declining health and indications that he may be dead. The day after this report, South Korean and Chinese officials cast doubt on the idea that Kim was gravely ill following a cardiovascular procedure. But the media report sparked questions about who would be in place to take over if the 36-year-old Kim, a third-generation hereditary leader, fell seriously ill or died. North Korea has never publicized who would follow leader Kim Jong-un in the event he is incapacitated. And with no details known about his young children, analysts say his sister and loyalists could form a regency until a successor is old enough to take over.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro named a family friend to head the federal police on Tuesday amid investigations into his sons and just days after his justice minister quit and alleged political meddling in law enforcement. The government's official gazette confirmed the appointment of Alexandre Ramagem, a federal police officer who was close to the Bolsonaro family and took charge of the president's security after he was stabbed on the campaign trail in 2018. A Supreme Court investigation staffed by federal police is looking into Carlos Bolsonaro's role in disseminating fake news, according to newspaper Folha de S. Paulo. His brother, lawmaker Eduardo Bolsonaro, has been accused in a congressional investigation of participating in a fake news scheme. Their eldest brother, Senator Flavio Bolsonaro, is being investigated by state prosecutors in Rio de Janeiro over alleged money laundering and misuse of public funds. On Friday, responding to criticism by Justice Minister Sergio Moro, Bolsonaro said he would choose whomever he wanted to lead the police force, saying, "The appointment is mine, the prerogative is mine, and the day I have to submit to one of my subordinates, I am no longer the president." El Salvador President Nayib Bukele authorized the use of lethal force by police and military against gang members in order to crack down on heightened violence amid the coronavirus pandemic. The Central American country reported 24 homicides on April 24th, the worst one-day toll since Bukele took office in June, prompting him to order a 24-hour lockdown in prisons housing gang members. By late afternoon on Sunday, police had registered another 29 murders, prompting Bukele to introduce tougher measures against gangs he said were taking advantage of the fact security forces were busy helping to contain the virus outbreak. As of today, some arrests have been made, but nobody has been tried. This weekend, the government also ordered members of rival gangs into shared cells in an attempt to break up lines of communication between members of the same group, and carried out searches in at least 5 prisons. Some 12,862 gang members are incarcerated in El Salvador, according to prison authorities.
Libya's eastern-based military leader, Khalifa Haftar, said on Monday his Libyan National Army, or LNA, was accepting a popular mandate to rule the country. Haftar launched a war a year ago to seize the capital Tripoli and other parts of northwest Libya. He has been widely seen as in control of the parallel administration that rules in the east for several years. Mohammed Ali Abdallah, an advisor to the Government of National Accord, GNA, said in a statement, Haftar has once more exposed his authoritarian intentions to the world. He no longer seeks to conceal his contempt for a political solution and democracy in Libya. Libya has been split since 2014 between areas controlled by the internationally recognized GNA in Tripoli and the northwest, and territory held by eastern-based forces in Benghazi. Haftar is supported by the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Russia. The GNA is backed by Turkey.
A senior U.S. trade official said on Wednesday that China remains very, very committed to meeting its commitments under the Phase 1 trade deal with the United States, despite the unprecedented impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Reporters were told that U.S. officials are talking regularly and often daily about the implementation of the trade deal. The official went on to say the U.S. Trade Representative's office has kept China on its priority watch list for concerns about intellectual property protections. The U.S. is also watching closely to see whether China has implemented changes agreed to as part of the trade agreement and continues to open its market to foreign investment. As part of the trade deal signed on January 15th, Beijing agreed to nearly double its U.S. farm product purchases and lower several agricultural trade barriers that Washington said limited access to the lucrative Chinese market. However, White House National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien said the outbreak could have an impact on the size of the purchases for this year. He said the pandemic underscored the importance of solid intellectual property protection to encourage innovation in development of new pharmaceuticals and other health technologies.
Amazon has purchased cameras to take temperatures of workers during the coronavirus pandemic from a firm blacklisted by the United States. China's Zhejiang Dahua Technology Co. was blacklisted over allegations of helping China detain and monitor the Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities. 3 people close to the situation told Reuters reporters the blacklisted company shipped 1,500 cameras to Amazon this month in a deal valued close to $10 million. Despite the blacklist, the Amazon procurement is legal because the rules apply to U.S. government contract awards and exports to blacklisted firms. Amazon declined to confirm its purchase from Dahua, but said its hardware complied with national, state, and local law, and its temperature checks were to support the health and safety of our employees who continue to provide a critical service in our communities. The coronavirus has infected staff in dozens of Amazon warehouses, ignited small protests over allegedly unsafe conditions, and prompted unions to demand site closures. Amazon said it is not using facial recognition on any of its thermal cameras. Civil liberty groups have warned the software could strip people of privacy and lead to arbitrary apprehensions if relied on by police. Also, U.S. authorities have been worried that equipment makers like Dahua could hide a technical backdoor to Chinese government agents seeking intelligence.
New York City delivered a freezer truck to a funeral home on Wednesday after it was found to be storing dead bodies in unrefrigerated U-Haul vehicles. Eyewitnesses said 2 vans and a truck were parked outside the funeral home, and New York media reported the bodies were found after neighbors reported an odor coming from the trucks themselves. ABC News reported about 100 bodies were stored in the vehicles by the owner of Andrew T. Cleckley Funeral Services after the freezer that normally stores bodies stopped working. ABC did not identify the owner, and no one at the funeral home was available to comment. It was not immediately clear how long the bodies had been stored in the U-Hauls or whether any were COVID-19 victims. But Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams suggested that the disturbing scene was a mark of insufficient resources for the funeral and morgue industries, which have been inundated with the concentrated COVID-19 deaths in the city. A New York Times count shows that the death rate in New York is more than 6 times the average number for about a 1-month period from March through April. As of Wednesday afternoon, more than 18,000 people have died of COVID-19 in New York, America's biggest city. While cities such as Delhi, Los Angeles, and Seoul register sharp falls in pollution, Mexico's capital continues to report poor air quality on its official website, warning that exercising at certain times of day poses a high to very high level health risk. Even as millions stay indoors, increased domestic use of gas and other fossil fuels, methane seeping from open-air waste dumps, and continuing emissions from the surrounding industrial sprawl have mostly nullified the clean air benefits of an economy on hold. Traffic is officially down by about 60% and is likely to fall sharply again once the city implements a 1-week driving ban on passenger vehicles. Mexico City's air quality is markedly better than when the World Health Organization designated it the world's most polluted city in 1992. But air quality is still poor and linked to high rates of respiratory illness. Now, experts worry that COVID-19 could prove more lethal in Mexico City than elsewhere.
Esta es una oportunidad muy interesante para explorar una solución sistémica a todos estos problemas y que las crisis venideras puedan ser resueltas a través de políticas públicas que desde el campo de las ciudades, por ejemplo, pueden tener lugar a una mayor inversión pública en aspectos básicos como el acceso a la salud, como la generación de energías renovables, la alimentación sana a través de modelos agroecológicos y el transporte, que por supuesto tiene una gran responsabilidad en cuanto a las emisiones que dan lugar a enfermedades y que contribuyen también directamente al cambio climático.
The top U.S. infectious disease official, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said Gilead Sciences' experimental antiviral drug remdesivir will become the standard of care for COVID-19 after early clinical trial results showed it helped patients recover faster. Preliminary results from a U.S. government trial showed that patients with severe cases given remdesivir recovered 31% faster than those given a placebo. This will be the standard of care, Fauci told reporters at the White House. When asked if he wanted the FDA to grant emergency use authorization for remdesivir, President Donald Trump said, "We want everything to be safe, but we would like to see very quick approvals, especially with things that work." Earlier this month, Gilead said it was prepared to donate to hospitals its existing supply of 1.5 million doses of remdesivir, which is said was enough for more than 140,000 patients. Regulatory approval of the drug would clear the way for commercial sales. The company is also studying the drug in patients with less severe COVID-19 cases, but those results are not expected until later next month. The Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier will not be returning from its longer-than-expected November deployment. The battle-ready crew of over 4,500 people will be staying with the vessel to avoid contact with the coronavirus, which has wreaked havoc elsewhere in the Navy. The carrier has been coronavirus-free, and with the virus proving dangerous, the Navy doesn't want to put a date on the Truman's return.
Guatemala's indigenous towns are threatening returned migrants after 100 deportees from the United States tested positive for the new coronavirus. For example, residents of one city in the Guatemalan highlands attempted to burn down a migrant shelter. Guatemalan health officials have said that to date, nearly 1/5 of the 585 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the Central American country can be traced to people deported from the United States. That news has fueled an angry backlash against migrants as they make their way home. Carlos Cumes, a 19-year-old who was deported a few weeks ago, arrived at his parents' home confronted by an angry group of locals. Cumes said, "They threatened to set my family on fire. I was really afraid, and I could only think about leaving the village so that I wouldn't cause any more trouble." Extreme poverty has made Guatemala one of the main sources of migrants to the United States in recent years, along with neighboring El Salvador and Honduras. The Trump administration implemented policies that have allowed U.S. border officials to swiftly deport over 10,000 migrants attempting to illegally cross into the country during the pandemic.
On Friday, the Hong Kong government hit back at Washington and London for condemning the recent arrests of 15 pro-democracy activists, saying that their criticism was totally unfounded and amounted to a serious intervention in Hong Kong's affairs. Police arrested the activists, including Democratic Party founder Martin Lee and millionaire publishing tycoon Jimmy Lai, on April 18th. This is the strongest response to the pro-democracy movement since the outbreak of mass protests last year. Foreign governments and human rights groups condemned the arrests. Hong Kong returned to Chinese rule in 1997 under a one country, two systems style of governance that grants it broad freedoms, including the right to protest and an independent judiciary not seen in the mainland. Critics say Beijing is increasingly encroaching on those freedoms, which the central government rejects.
Thank you for watching. This has been FISM News.